And right now we have Hou Na, who's the news presenter of CGTN. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Nat.
And how is China preparing for the APEC Summit this year, and what will be prioritized on its agenda?
All right, China is actively preparing for the 2025 APEC Summit. As you know, President Xi Jinping will be attending the APEC Economies Leaders Meeting in Yeongju, South Korea, and pay a state visit to the country this week. So, APEC is the most important economic cooperation mechanism in the Asia Pacific region. And President Xi Jinping's attendance at the meeting definitely demonstrates the high importance China attaches to regional economic cooperation. So during the 3-day trip, starting from Thursday, President Xi will deliver a speech at the APEC Economic Leaders Meeting and hold bilateral talks with leaders of relevant countries. Well, China is now the host country this year, but it is engaging constructively under the summit's theme of building a sustainable. China's priorities align with the three pillars set by South Korea, which is connectivity, innovation, and prosperity. So, with a strong emphasis on digital transformation, green development, and supply chain resilience, China is also supporting efforts to facilitate dialogue between major economies, particularly in the context of US China trade tensions, and is expected to play a stabilizing role at the summit. Nat?
So, how will this year's APEC Summit be different from previous summits in the past? And how has China been playing an active role as an APEC member economy?
Ned, China has been a consistent and constructive participant in APEC since joining in 1991. It has hosted the summits twice, one in 2001 and again in 2014. And Chinese leaders have attended every APEC economic leaders meeting. China has championed inclusive growth, digital cooperation, and multilateral trade, and has actively promoted the free trade area of the Asia Pacific process. China is also a strong advocate for economic and technical cooperation, especially in supporting developing economies within the APEC framework. So its role is widely recognized as a balancing force that bridges different development levels among member economies. Nat?
Yep. And how does China view its bilateral relations with Thailand? And most importantly, how China is trying to help Thailand and ASEAN countries in times of crisis, such as the border conflicts between Thailand and Cambodia, and even transnational crimes?
Well, Nat, as you mentioned, the feeling is mutual. China views its relationship with Thailand as one of the mutual trust and strategic partnership. So bilateral ties are strong, definitely, with deep cooperation in trade, infrastructure, and regional security. In times of crisis, such as the recent Thai-Cambodia border conflict, China played a constructive role and impartial mediation role. It facilitated the T-chat diplomacy by hosting informal consultations between the foreign ministers of both countries in Yunnan, Southwest China, leading to the ending consensus and a ceasefire agreement. So China also dispatched a special envoy for shuttle diplomacy and expressed full support for ASEAN's central role in conflict resolution under the ASEAN Way. So in border issues, ASEAN crisis management, China supports regional stability through dialogue, non-interference, and consensus building, and is committed to jointly addressing transnational crimes, terrorism, and economic vulnerabilities through platforms like the ASEAN-China dialogue relations and the Latam-Mekong cooperation mechanism. And bilateral trade between the two countries are also surging, as you know. And what I want to mention is the people to people exchanges between China and Thailand have been increasing so much over the past 50 years as the two countries celebrate 50 years of diplomatic ties. So definitely China Thailand ties have been growing rapidly and profoundly over the 5 decades.
That's a great insight from you. So, thank you so much for today.
Thank you for having me, Nat.